Welcome to Pillow Talk. Confessions. Welcome to Pillow Talk Confessions. I'm your host, Belladonna.
And I'm Mr. Bob the Zebra King. I'm a little tilted. Hold on. There we go. There we go. I will stay tilted if possible, but yeah, I'm here. Sorry, guys.
So today's episode is about cultural factors that impact relationships. And it's not just romantic relationships, although we do feature a lot of romantic relationships that cultural factors can impact. And I want to explain the difference between social factors and cultural factors so that everybody's on the same page. But before I do that, I like to always turn it over to co-host.
Well, of course, as many of you know,
I know you saw a question about what are some biases.
Yes. I do know that there's a few double standards and whatnot that came from the questions throughout the week, but I had a little feedback on my end. Could you or would you please mind repeating the question just in case it was a little messed up at the listeners as well?
Sure. So double standards that you can just name off the top of your head that you notice between men and women in particular.
Okay. Well, not to necessarily repeat myself, but those who didn't see on Instagram or Facebook, one of the double standards that I spoke up was crying for males is usually considered a double standard, as crying for males. At least when that way I grew up. If a boy was to cry, he's either overly emotional or he is soft. And I say that with air quotations, as in, it's a sign of weakness, or considered a sign of weakness. So, boys can't cry, girls can, or crying is what a girl does,
So would you say that crying is a feminine trait based off of the double standard?
Yes. Based off the double standard, I believe that crying is natural. It's a form of expression. You can express sadness. You can express joy. If those who don't cry. I'm one of those people. Because of that, it's really hard for me to cry. And honestly, whenever I do cry, I feel so much better because actually it let loose pain. It's relieving. It's hard. Even if it's just, like that TV, one single tear, that still feels great. But when I get a good cry out, and I look ugly and I sound bored, and, people like, what's wrong? And I'm, and I tried so hard. And you say I tried, and you just start crying extra hard for some reason because you did your best, you tried. Anyway, those cries, I always end up having the best sleep afterwards. But yes, crying is natural. Everybody, everybody go around crying all the time. But if you feel like you got to cry, let it one out. If you feel like you need to be alone and do it. You feel a lot better. Another double standard. I'm going to say a lot of the characteristics that we throw on males. I don't think it's really necessarily, I'd rather not women touch trash and whatnot just because, it's nasty and, whatnot. But I don't think it's really more or less a, man thing to take out garbage. I'm not saying I look to my girlfriends, oh, you take out that trash. Well, I'll take it out, or to always bring in the groceries. I've dated tomboys and I've literally been in fights. Not fist fights, but verbal fights because you aren't letting me do man stuff. Oh, what's man stuff? Bringing in all the groceries? No, I got this. I'll pay the bills here. You don't. But, like when I'm trying to do things for you, at least it's not, I was more or less upset that you won't let me help. It's not the fact that you won't let me take in the groceries. You don't let me do this or that. It's just, yeah, there's some things that you can do that it was straight up somehow. Yeah, it kind of emasculated me. Yeah, don't put me down like that. But at the same time, that's one reason why. Yeah, people like that taught me that. Yeah, it's not necessarily a man thing. Because if you ain't got a man, whose job is it then? Or if you aren't a man, whose job is it?
Well. You've started us off and opened us on a good note. So I'm going to get into those social factors and cultural factors, and after that, we're gonna talk about, the actual cultural factors that influence relationships. And of course, we're going to go into our confession segment, wrap it up, and go from there. But I want to basically give everybody and my co-host the outline for the episode, so everybody's on the same page. So now let's get into the social factors first, so we can distinguish between the two. Social factors are like your age, your sex, or your orientation. Those are things that you identify with as a person, and how you identify and represent yourself, and how you communicate to other people. What they perceive of you, things of that nature. When basically like what they give you as when they describe you. Oh, she was an African American female who was very feminine looking. She had fair features, as they say. Things of those natures that when talking to people, they can describe this. Then we have cultural factors. That's more so your mindset, what you believe in, the words you use, how you express yourself, the practices that you have as far as faith or spirituality. Those things that are more so internal, but they're universally practiced by a group of people. You see the difference between social factors, which are more physical characteristics, and then cultural factors. They're more so, your psyche characteristics. Are you understanding me, Mr. Ibad?
Yes, I nodded. I was nodding. I'm tracking.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe the rest of the class isn't following, but I got you.
Okay.
They can rewind.
Yeah, long as you heard me. Okay, so one of the cultural factors that I've seen over the years, especially as I got to adulthood and kind of understood when they say roles between a man and a woman, is this male versus female culture mindset and things that we live in. We live in what they call a patriarchal society. So that's like with the mindset that everything revolves around male energy and that men are in control. Well, on the flip side, you have what they call a matriarchy, and that's where everything revolves around the woman, and the woman is in control. During the course of my studies about history, I came to realize that we are in a patriarchy, but in ancient times we were in matriarchies, which means women called the shots. Women dictated how things were ran. And at a point in time, men got tired of that shit. So as a result of that, they took over. Historically speaking, if you are a theology scholar, so to speak, you can see this in the Bible when they give you the story about Adam and Eve. Now, mind you, both Adam and Eve ate the apple, but who is always to blame for shit going wrong for human civilization? Not Adam. Here you go playing devil's advocate.
I mean,
just like I knew you
know, I wasn't there, but Lilith was, and I'm pretty sure that
why you go there?
Her and Eve. You said theology, so you remember. I do study a bit, but I don't remember seeing no death date for either one of those or a mention of their death in there anyway. So I'm saying they might still be running around here. So you might be able to ask them one of these days. So maybe they wrote the book.
I'm done with you. We might have lost some people when you said Lilith because they like, what the hell? But we gonna keep it moving.
That's okay. Look, if you as long as you study, look, I'm not trying to convince nobody of anything. All I'm saying, if you study, you'll know who Lilith is. She'll come across somewhere in there. But yeah.
I don't want to lose.
So as we were saying, so let's backtrack. Who always gets blamed? And I fictitiously said the serpent, but we're talking about Eve, and this is one of the reasons why they say, like, besides them getting kicked out of the Garden of Eden and them basically having to toil over the earth, that one of the punishments was there's a division, just like there's this little border between her and I. That division is that basically for the rest of existence, man and woman will struggle to communicate and become one cord. That's why you always will have to work on communication, because that's one of the punishments of getting kicked out. Now, that's part of the story you're supposed to get when you read Adam and Eve. That's part of it, but a lot of people never really get into that part. So please continue.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that sets the tone for my topic. And we will largely have a full dedicated episode, which is our season finale, with this next factor, because we already discussed the male and female factor. Kind of went off and I knew this was going to happen when we did that, because I was talking about biblical characters, and people get caught up in the fact that I'm talking about biblical characters and they don't listen to the rest of what I'm trying to say. It's funny how a book that is supposed to bring people together divides so many, but that's another story. Black versus white. I know. Black versus white. Basically race, anything that can separate and divide. I don't know if you've noticed the theme here already, but I'm on a roll, so we're going to keep going. The subject of race is such a hot debate, but when I might be blowing and expanding some minds, race is not a thing that has lasted for eons and centuries. It's relatively something that is new. Okay. And it was used to justify slavery. That same book I referenced in the last one was also altered to justify slavery. But that is actually going to have its own episode. So I don't want to get off too much in that culture and in that thing, because I saved a whole episode to break that down. But what I will say is that, when it comes to lifestyle choices and influence and opportunities that are afforded to people, we are now seeing on TV on a daily basis an accurate depiction. And I'm not talking about what's on TV on the fiction side, but I'm talking about if you look at the news and you look at different news stations that report the same incident, but they do it differently. Well, you have to think about who owns that network. Who does that network get political pay from? And things of that nature, which we're going to go into after religious indifference. So, let's get back to the black and white situation. But for example, this case that by the time this episode airs, the George Floyd situation.
Yes.
It was a black and white case. Okay? And I'm not talking about the race of the people involved. I'm talking about it was plain as day what the facts were. And if the jury had decided the other way, it would have been the final nail in the coffin for what everybody who is African American who lives here has to deal with on a daily basis. And that is no justice and equal treatment when it comes to the police. That is an example of things that affect relationships. I'm going to put a pause on that one because I'm going to come back to this around politics because it matters when we get to that level. It affects relationships on different levels, the different relationships that we have with people. And after I, talk about religious indifference and politics, then I'll come back to that because you'll need both of these pieces to understand the larger puzzle. So, religious indifference. Okay. This is when you have a debate because your beliefs aren't aligned to somebody who practices a different religion. Your view of God is no better than someone else's. However, because they aren't aligned with your religious beliefs, they are somehow a foreign enemy or someone you can't relate to anymore. All because of their religious beliefs. Doesn't make sense to me, but it happens. That's just like how Christians often pass judgment on people who may be practitioners of voodoo or Santeria. They don't know that religion, but yet because their religious instructors teach them that those religions are practicing something that's evil, that's law. So now this person who you've got along with didn't know their religious beliefs. As soon as you found it out, now they're the enemy. Makes no sense to me. But you're indifferent based off of one fact. That person may have a good character, good spirit, good energy, but all of a sudden, because they don't believe the same thing that you believe, now you're indifferent. That's religious indifference at its core. I'm not going to talk about the different belief systems and things like that because that's not my job. If you want the knowledge, you'll look that up. But I'm basically breaking down what religious indifference is. Now, politics. Politics is office politics. It's our governmental politics. And we all know, if you go back to high school days, okay, this is when we first started learning about what politics was. And I'm not talking about the fact that you have to pick a class president or anything like that. I'm talking about there's the popular clique.
Yeah.
There's your jocks. There's your nerds.
And then there's the Earl.
The outcasts.
You said it right. Yes.
But what I'm getting at is that is how we first start to formulate and form cliques and we learn about how the world really works, because it's not the same as in our formative years. For some reason, things changed. But let's fast forward to adulthood. Now you get into the office. You have that one person who takes their job way too fucking seriously. And they kiss up to upper management and they make everybody else's life miserable But because they hold a little position of power, they usurp their they use their authority to make everybody else's life miserable. No one likes them, but everybody has to turn to them for help.
Oh, not at my job. Yeah, we don't got to turn it up for help. That's right.
Oh no, no, that's usually the office politics. Yeah. Now, when we talk about job politics, you might have a whole different feeling. But what I do know about any job is it rolls downhill. So the man at the top is gonna make sure that everybody underneath him feels it if he gets in trouble. That's universal.
Okay, I'll give you a prime example of how that could have happened. Yesterday, there was a man working a golf course. So, like, I'm groundskeeper. There was a man swimming in our pond, and I'm watching this guy dive in the pond. You know, and he says, "Yeah, they hired me to get all the golf balls out the pond. They won't even give me like 25-cent raise, and I do 5 times as much as most of the others around there. They won't even give me a quarter. They won't even talk about 5-cent raise, and they hired you to get." So I'm really nervous that this man is in here, because it's like, I don't believe your bullshit story. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can't get in trouble for him if he gets hurt or drowns in this water. Who cares? But would my boss get in trouble? And if he got in trouble, he could possibly get fired. If he gets fired, that means that screws up everything I got going on around here. Yeah, this could backfire on. This still could come back on me. So, yeah. But yeah, that guy takes his job way too seriously. He was out there with me though, and he seen the guy in there. He was like, "Oh no, if you're looking for golf balls, there's another pond, and it's a little bit more drained. You'll be able to walk around there instead of swim. Bro, come on, I'll show you." And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, you really gonna show this lunatic around? I'm like, I guess it's okay because he'll be walking, but you don't okay, whatever, man. You don't get paid enough for this. So we call him Thumbhead because he really looked like a thumb, and it's like that. Because from a distance, if you put your thumb out, all you can literally see a hard hat on top of your thumb.
I'm done with you right now. So let's get back to this. Let's finish out politics, because we talked about office politics. So now let's talk about governmental politics. We all see how politics can divide people. Okay, we talked about how our gender can divide us. We talked about how our race can divide us, about how our religious beliefs can divide us. And now we're going to be talking about politics. So let's say, for instance, you're a Democrat.
I don't even form it like that no more. I want to call it down with the donkey and down with the elephant.
Anyway,
it makes it sound more
for the people mindset. Yes. So you are a Democrat, you're for the people. And on the Republican side, you're for self-motivated individuals who strap up their bootstraps and do it for themselves. Those are the two opposing mindsets at their core. I broke it down. I'm not trying to get off into politics. That's not my bag. That's not what I'm here for. However, it can divide a household. If one person is Republican and another person is Democrat, especially during a year in which we have to vote on various political positions that the laws in which we live as a society. And you don't really think about that when you're dating at maybe 25 in serious relationship. But first learn what voting is and what you're actually doing. You don't think about the deep impact your decisions make until you've been around a couple elections and you start noticing, oh well, why are we living this lifestyle? And then you look, oh, it's heavily Republican. Or why are we living this lifestyle? Oh, it's heavily Democrat. Okay. Those are the most two popular parties. Of course, they have, the independents and things of that nature. But the two most popular parties and the two most political mindsets that everybody gets set in have a major cultural influence on our society as well as our relationships. Because they're not only dictating how our country is being ran, or our city is being ran, or our county is being ran, they impact our household. Prime example, welfare. To get on welfare for the last 20, 30, maybe 40 years, for a woman to get assistance from the government for welfare, she usually has to be a single mother. You don't think politics plays a role in that shit? You don't think that affects a household to where some women are lying and saying that they're a single woman and they refuse to get married to a man who been laying up and benefiting off of that situation? But if they get caught, that's now welfare fraud, and they gonna be throwing each other under the gun. These are things that every day. If you don't think politics plays a role,
out the house over that.
Yeah, you don't think politics plays a role in your everyday, day-to-day life, something is wrong with you, and I need you to pick up a book.
They're gonna pick up the wrong one now.
Put down the phone, log off the internet, and pick up a goddamn book, because you must have missed something. You must have missed some things when it came down to, social studies, I don't know, history, whatever it's called nowadays. I've been out of school a while now. But you missed some things, and you need to go back and educate yourself. So now let me tie back everything together. So let's go back to the fact about politics. Politics affects how we do things, because usually it is seen that Republicans tend to favor the white race over the black race. Why? Because the white race has been known ever since they touched down and they set their feet on our soil, and I'm saying our soil, American soil, to have been rich or have been in a situation where they were not slaves. So therefore, if you're not a slave, it's safe to say you may be poor, but you ain't a slave. So you still doing better than what? A black person. Not saying that every black person that came over here was a slave. So save that argument. Don't want to hear it.
But to all those out there, yes, I am aware that I literally go by the name Mr. Servant. That's what Ebot, translates to. But yeah, that doesn't mean I'm a slave, though. Servant and slave are different.
Oh, and that save that energy for next episode. Because remember,
you see, it was very docile. It's very it's like petting a kitty. It's like petting a kitty.
Yeah, save that G, because I tell you, you're dropping some gems right now that I don't think people can pick up. Because if you notice, I started off with our light, usual, funny content. Our upbeat.
Yeah, it builds up. Knowledge is power.
But I peeled back those layers, because if you rocking with us this long, after the last 3 to 4 episodes, you really support our platform and what we're trying to do here. Our soul. Yes. Our sole intention is to educate and uplift and to expand minds. It's never to make you feel like you have to be a part of this mindset. But if you do and you want to rock with us, make sure
that you join me and going across. And when it comes to politics, screw it, dude. Don't who cares about it? Because they won't do what I want. Look, okay, let's say candidate A and candidate B. Candidate A has a little bit of something good that I like, and candidate B has a little something good I like. How come I can't have somebody that's gonna do a little bit of something from A and a little bit of something B? And how come we can't get together as a collective and go like, yo, we like what he had to say, and he had to say, who among us in America can do that? Okay, well, you gotta meet this step. Yeah, I'm different. See, I'm different. But yeah,
Mr. Ivan, if you could do me a favor, there was a little feedback and there was some breaking up. Could repeat what you said.
Okay.
If you remember.
I was saying that. Yes, I do remember. When it comes to politics, I feel a certain way. If we have candidate A and candidate B, candidate A has a few things I like, and candidate B has a few that I like as well. Well, how come we can't have somebody who has, that we can, have a little bit of A, a little bit of B, and we all get together as a group and decide that, you can't meet this right here, then you can't be that person for us. And if there's nobody within that region, cool. We got a whole other we got all these people in this country. Somebody can help us out so we can make sure that, all right, it's good here in Texas. All right, cool. We got the same thing here in Idaho. We got this, that, and the third. We can have it. We can work. That's a whole new system. Maybe it can be a guerrilla because it's guerrilla warfare tactics. No, but when it comes to politics, I'm not really with it because I don't like what's in front of me.
I'm done with you.
That's my relationship.
But I mean, I'm glad you. I'm glad you feel that way about politics. That means we don't have any problems. I am over here with revolutionary.
So you already know. You already know I'm with you on that, but it's politics. Politics. It ain't politics. I mean, unless you think about time and tick away. Tick tock.
I'm not with you today. So we're gonna get on into country disputes. Okay. Of course, we all know that there are some countries that don't rock with each other. So let's say you're traveling and you're abroad and you link up and you happen to be on a neutral country's territory, but you guys are different countries. Now y'all arguing over the most randomest shit that has nothing to do with you two as individuals, but it has everything to do with your country. Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
That's what they're trying to do. They want to spread capitalism.
Make
it make sense.
And capitalism, rich versus poor. Rich versus poor. You got the people who hoard wealth, build wealth, sustain wealth, maintain wealth, versus the people who can't seem to get wealth or who
what are you talking about, Donna? Teamwork makes the dream work. I'm sorry, makes their dream work. Makes their dream.
Ooh, makes their dream work. When everybody wants to be a boss but don't know how to do the things that bosses do. There's a reason for that, because then we wouldn't have a need for a hierarchy or a class system that does not set everybody up on equal footing.
Not everybody's prepared to pay the cost that it takes to be that boss, though. They might be ready, but they're not ready for that cost.
This is true, but what makes them any less important as a human being just because they don't drive that fancy car or live in that good so-called good, safe neighborhood? Or they don't wear a designer brand?
If they feel any less self-important, that's because they let some other organization or entity get inside their mind and make them feel that way. Nah, don't let nobody make you feel that way.
Okay, I'll give you an example.
I'm with you with it. You are important. Yeah, don't let nobody look down on you like that.
But I get you, and I want you to hold on. I want you to hold that thought. So, this year we experienced, and last year, yes. If anybody is familiar with Basketball Wives, I'm going to be talking about characters from that show in a situation that actually illustrates the whole rich versus poor mentality. Okay, so there's a character called Evelyn Lozada. Okay, she's the spicy Latina of the show who's been with, a member of a basketball organization, a member of a football organization, and a member of the baseball organization. Okay,
Major League.
So baseball. She's a major league woman.
Yes.
Or companion. Okay.
There we go.
But she got her claim to fame because of the basketball player she was with prior to the show airing. Okay. That's how she got her claim to fame. She has a mindset and a mentality that because she's rich, she's somehow better than other people at times. I'm not saying that she may feel this way, but that's how she comes across, because I don't know her personally, but on the show she comes off judging people. A particular incident back in the early seasons when Tammy Roman, who is most famous and most known for before this show, dating a basketball player and appearing on The Real World. Okay, when she first came on there, she was explaining her life story and how after she left Kenny, which was her husband, she ended up on welfare and had food stamps. As a result of this, Evelyn looked down on her. Okay, so it's that type of mentality. The rich versus poor mentality, that somehow because she went through a setback, somehow because she went through some tribulations, and she has the nerve to be in the same space as the Evelyn Lozada, she's somehow less than her because she doesn't have the designer fashions. She doesn't have the money in the bank account. She doesn't have that big fish to pay all her bills.
Old money don't respect new money though either.
Yeah, but
so even when you talk about rich versus rich too.
But here's the thing. Evelyn is new money.
How is she more new than the other?
She's not old money.
That don't matter.
Yeah, she's less new than the other chick.
It's timing too.
Old money. Yeah, old money is silent, okay? Because old money will be sitting there like, this ain't shit. Okay, yeah, she going through her struggles, but old money don't speak on those type of things. You know why? Because it's beneath them.
So it's basically they like, my earrings are $100 more than yours. So I'm just
yeah, so that's what happens when some people climb up above their station and they're able to rise up and move from poor to rich. They somehow forget where they came from, and they have that crab in a bucket mentality, and they're going to climb up over you. And once they get there, yeah, and obviously, who wants to be poor, quote unquote? Because to me, that's a poor mindset that she has, but that's another topic for another pillow talk.
I don't want to be poor, but I do like being down to earth. I've been the guy that had money, but when I have money, like I said, I do have a small addiction to power. It does somewhat change me, and I don't necessarily like that. So it's not like I'm bad with my money, but yeah, at times I will turn away a good business venture, and sometimes it's because I just don't know. My mindset isn't right. I gotta be right, otherwise I'm gonna fuck it up.
I mean, and that's a good way to approach life. But I wanted to talk about these cultural factors So that way we could get off into how they affect relationships. Yes. We kind of briefly did it as we were going over them. But as I say, when you start getting into like dating and you have like your mental checklist that you're just checking off. Check, 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 check. Okay. Do they have a job? Check. Okay. Have they ever been to prison? Yes. Oh, that's a red line for me. Okay. Well, let's say they went to prison because they sold weed. And they had a lot of weed. And they were good weed. They were good, drug dealer in that sense. Okay, it's just weed. It ain't nothing else. They ain't go to cocaine. They not really robbing nobody. They just the plug when it come to weed. Is it okay then? Because I mean, they're now legalizing weed in other states. See how politics plays a role? Okay. So let's go through the same checklist. Okay, y'all don't settle on the fact that okay, you okay with why they went to prison, okay? Oh, but because when they was in prison, they became Islamic. And that's a deal breaker for you because you are a hardcore Bible thumping Christian, honey. You just, oh no. But then you start to talk to them and you realize that you guys are worshiping the same God. It's just that your religious beliefs start to separate when you determine who that prophet or that Messiah or who that person who you guys see is supposed to lead by example. You split, one goes with Jesus and the other one sides with Muhammad. Then you start to see it's not really so much of a difference. It's just that there were some alterations and some variations. Okay, so you guys got over that hurdle. Okay. We briefly talked about the politics when we talked about in jail. Oh, but you're from, America and you're African American and they are from Africa. Oh shit, what don't happen now? So now slavery and your ethnicity and your heritage and your culture and your legacy. And now y'all
I don't want to eat chicken feet soup again.
So with you, but now y'all really got beef because African Americans are looking at Africans like they don't did something wrong to them because and that's one I don't really want to go into too much. Okay, so somehow or another you cross over that hurdle. Now you got to deal with who gonna pay the check. You got this nice 401k, you don't landed a good position in HR, you drive a nice used pre-owned Lexus, okay? But he is still in medical school. And his parents are overseas and they send him to school here, So he's on a much more, he's not broke by any means, but he is spendthrift or cheap, as they call it. So he wants to split the bill.
Frugal. That's what they are. That's what they say.
Frugal. Because the date ain't been all that great, and he really don't think that y'all gonna end up together. That's that rich. And now you sit over there, oh, you a broke nigga. I don't know if I can deal with you. So do you see how these cultural factors, and let me bring it back home. I forgot this one. Let's say, for instance, somehow y'all make it to about date 5, 6, 7. Okay. And I start talking about male and female roles in a relationship. Okay. We're just going to say for the sake of this scenario, this is a heterosexual couple. Okay. And
she will always wear a dress at all times. No pants.
And and his culture, as I said, his country and in his religious upbringing, a woman is supposed to serve and to be submissive to her man. However, your argument is, I was raised by a single mother. I'm strong. I'm independent. And ain't no man gonna tell me what to do. Yeah, I want to be loved by a man and I want him to help me pay these bills, but he can't tell me shit. Oh, shit. Well, I think we have now successfully covered all of the cultural factors that impact a relationship. Wouldn't you agree, sir?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's like a few that we missed, but those are like scenarios that, like, come on, I'm looking dead at you. I'm saying you. I mean, you person on YouTube. I mean, you listener with the headphones that's going, what you mean? Yeah, you know that unique situation that only you happen to be in where it happens like that. But yeah, I'm sorry we didn't talk about your specific situation, but you know you loved, you know you involved.
Exactly. I mean, here's the thing. This was a made up scenario as I was going along. So I hope I did not offend anyone. It's never to offend anyone. It's just to illustrate how we don't look at our human behavior and psyche enough to understand relationships. And as a person who struggles with communication with everyday people, whether it's in my romantic relationship or my friendships or even business dealings, this is not rocket sciences, but it once you start to break down people's backgrounds, how they were raised, where they grew up in, how they identify with the world, how they are received in the world, you get a better understanding of people. And that is always my goal with these episodes, is for you to get a better understanding inside a world you may have not ever thought about. So I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, because it's confession time. Have you ever found yourself in a situation to where one of the cultural factors that I've brought up had an impact on a relationship that you had?
Never. All my relationships have been perfect. I don't know why you would ever even ask. Yes. As someone who identifies as a Hebrew, as in Hebrew Israelite, basically think, for those who don't know, just think Jewish for the most part, just about the same thing. If you really want to know, just basically being Hebrew Israelite is like being Christian on advanced hard mode, because I basically, I'm supposed to apply Old Testament and New Testament rules, as well as knowing which ones to decipher, because if everything before the New Testament that was said is still and applying now, which ones am I supposed to, deactivate, which ones apply, which ones don't? Yeah, that's already hard. You do a lot of studying. But when you apply that to dating, if you were dating someone outside of that faith and whatnot, how does that go? Well, I dated this girl, Bianca. She's Catholic and whatnot. And for me, as being Hebrew, there's things like I'm not supposed to touch gold, barehanded, no pork, things like that. She had, and I don't do crosses either, because I view that as idolatry. So, seeing a crucifix, and seeing, Jesus on that and whatnot, or pictures of Jesus, I kind of see that a little bit like idolatry, like, like, oh, you're worshiping. I'm saying, I'm not saying people do it, but I look kind of like at it sometimes, like, are you worshiping that picture, or are you worshiping, Christ? But anyway, she often would get her chains like tangled up and wouldn't really pay any mind to it, because for her everyday life, this is nothing. But she would try to pass me her crucifixes, like, they're tangled, babe. Can you undo this? And I just watch them drop to the floor. And why would you do that? And she goes, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's not me being a dick, but sometimes I would look like a dick. But technically, you offended me. But I at first, when I first became Hebrew, I chose not to really like intermix that stuff with my own yoke because I had to get used to it. Like for me now, I think about it like this: how can I expect someone who's been warm all of their life, as in Christian all their life, to understand what a man who's cold to feel like? You always warm. How the hell do you know what the fuck cold feels like? I can't expect that. I can only try my best to, slowly experience you to it. But at the same time, you gotta be go gingerly about it, because I don't wanna, I'm not trying to convert anybody. I believe whatever journey or your faith, your spirituality, you deserve every right to, experience this journey your way, just as I experienced mine to, go on becoming Hebrew. It took me 4 years before I got that. And I feel blessed that nobody really like, yo, join us. Nothing like that. Like, yeah, you shouldn't have people like, nobody in your ear. You should be your own thing, your own personal relationship, with whomever. But after I was able to understand a little bit, like, I'm not trying to Bible thump or anything like that. I do my best to educate, but I'm not, if she's gonna have pork roast, I'm not gonna, tell her, ew, don't make that. No, you can have your pork roast. Don't expect me to kiss you or really want to be around you because you're gonna sweat and you got pork in your sweat. Maybe if you love me, you won't eat it as much, or maybe you'll eat it when I'm not here. I don't drink Monsters when you're around because you don't like that smell. It makes you sick. So pork kind of does make me feel sick when I smell it. So, but yeah, that is one cultural thing right there.
I mean, that is a deep one. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with that one, because culturally speaking, what your religion is expressed in how you eat, how you practice your faith. It's how you honor God. It's bigger than just your relationship with your significant other. And people often don't understand in the Christian Bible or any Bible, because I don't like to quote different texts, because these are all Abrahamic religions. Okay.
Yeah, I used to be Christian before I was Hebrew, and that's one reason that was kind of made it easier for us, because since I already understood that culture, I knew what applied already, so it wasn't like all that huge of a difference and whatnot, and I could really honestly focus on the main thing. Like I said, I'm not supposed to hinder their journey, because I'm supposed to love one another as I love myself. I love myself enough to the point I'm not going to hinder my own progress like that. Why would I hinder theirs? So I stick to the message. The message is what's important, and who cares who delivered it? Did you get the gist of the story about how you're supposed to live and whatnot? Okay, cool. That's all we really need to talk about.
So for me, I have pretty much encountered all of them. But the one that has really deeply impacted me is why we're doing a whole extra episode regarding race. And it's going to be the history of interracial dating. Okay. So I'm going to talk about black versus white. So for me, I have dated technically outside race. If you were to ask me, would I identify as I am African American, have mixed race heritage, and answer yes.
Same.
But I don't really.
If you can see this eye, I don't know.
Yeah, I see it. I see
I
it. We're gonna
told you
get to you in
so.
a second. Yeah, we're gonna get to you in a second. And you're asking for change. They would give you 76 cents for me because I am 76% black. But if you go back to at least my grandmother and my grandmother's father, he was half white. Okay. So I don't grow up or identify with that side. Then we have white people on my grandmother's mother's side. And I'm not too familiar with the white family or heritage on my father's side. Okay. But I know that it exists. I know that it exists because we're here in America. And during the time of slavery, a lot of white men and a lot of white women slept with their slaves. And as a result, a lot of babies were born and they were mixed race. Those mixed race babies either continue to sleep with other white people or they continue to sleep with other black people, therefore creating what we now know as African Americans. Then we talk about passing. Okay, get into passing. If you're of a lighter complected skin type, but yet you know your parents or grandparents were white, but you consider yourself as white, now you're out here passing. And now you making other mixed race babies that have to be called something. And then we have the paper bag test. And if you put my skin up to a paper bag, I'm basically about the same color as that goddamn bag. No lighter, no darker. But these are different rules. But I say all of that thing. One of my earliest relationships was with a mixed race gentleman. His black, his father, his mother was white, his father was black. Now, I realized when I went over to his house for a date, it was very one, this is also part male versus female because, I was able to sit on his bed in his room with the door closed. That would have never ever happened at my mama house. You doing what? Where? With who? Oh, no. No, ma'am. Not my child. Now, I don't know if that was a black versus white thing. And him growing up in a mixed race household, if they were laissez-faire, as they say, about his upbringing. But all I do know is it would have never, ever went down in my mama household. Okay,
didn't go down in my mom's household. I know some households it did go down there. No.
What you just said kind of leads me to believe I was on the right track when I said black versus white with this. But I was like,
believe me, I tried. And before my mom said anything, my stepdad was like, hey, what you doing? Nah.
Ain't no babies getting made on my watch.
He didn't even have to say it. He just said, nah. And I knew.
But you see what I'm saying? Like these are perfect illustrations over things like our culture, our society, how we are raised, and our upbringing, and just the everyday thing that we consume when we go outside or we're on the internet play a everyday role in our relationships. We're going to get to that much more deeper in season 3, but I wanted to kind of highlight this because whether we realize it or not, some of our issues are not black and white. They're not so cut and dry. When we get in these relationships where you're dealing with somebody who comes from a 2-parent household or a single-parent household, and you guys decide to marry and intermingle and have children, you guys weren't raised the same. You guys weren't brought up in the same type of environment. that plays an impact. I did not touch on nature versus nurture for that specific reason, because just because you're in a 2-parent household doesn't make it any better than that single parent household. And I didn't want to get into the other factors that could be playing. In that 2-parent household, there could have been domestic violence going on. See, it's just too many hot topics when you get into nature versus nurture. And I'm not here for that. I'm not fighting anybody in our comments. And I'm not trying to get my channel, taken down. Just they're just certain things. But if you feel free, like you want to have that discussion with me or Mr. Ibad, join us in our Facebook group, Pillow Talk Confessions. That way you can connect with us on a deeper level. And we can have these enlightening discussions. Otherwise, you don't want to have an enlightening discussion and you just want to shoot the shit with us, because we do that every day. Just, drop down. We post things daily. Now, I'm going to do a takeaway for this episode. Normally we don't do a takeaway every episode, because I set precedent last episode in breaking that tradition. But today I felt like this needed a takeaway. What we've talked about and what we've covered, what would you want people to take away about the cultural factors that influence a relationship? What is something that you want to drive home?
Education. Educate yourself. If something is important to somebody else that you feel is important to you, it should be important to you, or at least on a to-do list. You don't got to be a master of it, but just have a working knowledge of it. It could really change the dynamic of your relationship for the better.
That right there. Sometimes, we have to separate our ego from self. And people automatically think ego and self are one when they are not. Ego is what keeps us alive. It protects us. It nurtures us. It makes us grounded in reality. Self, I always end up on some spiritual shit, huh? Self is who we are at our core. It is like our soul. It is something that is transcendent of ego. It can rise above and eliminate ego in some instances. It's what keeps us connected to other people. Ego is what separates us. And if you understand that principle, then you'll realize these cultural factors are tied around ego. Where if you believe something so wholeheartedly that you will judge another person simply because of it, then you have an ego problem, not a self problem. You have allowed ego to win. So I guess my takeaway for today would be that instead of focusing on what divides you, focus on what brings you together. Because that is why you found connected with that person in the first place. Whether it was your significant other, whether it was a business partner, whether it was your neighbor down the street. Whatever caused the rift, if it's worth salvaging that relationship, can be saved looking at the similarities rather than the differences. And that's the takeaway from this. Kind of touched on it while we were going through the scenarios. And if you really paid attention, kudos to you. If you didn't, Go back and play and listen to me talk about the different scenarios. And you will hear that I offer gems of wisdom on how to overcome them, especially when I talked about religious differences. So that I am on a clear level playing field with you all, I'm very indifferent to organized religion, period. Okay? And this is just my general consensus. I don't see a place or a need for someone who is a human being to dictate to me how I should live and how I should be. But that doesn't mean I don't respect or study or appreciate other religions. I want to put that disclaimer out because if you really pay attention to my episodes, I trash talk everybody's religion, secretly or indirectly or directly. I don't discriminate. But that's just who I am. I'm a studier of religions. So, just wanted to put that disclaimer. Edit that out of the final version. Don't really know yet. But join our Facebook group, Pillow Talk Confessions. Follow us on Instagram at Pillow Talk Confessions Podcast. Remember to like, comment, rate, and subscribe. And I think we're going to end it on this note. What do you say?
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk. All right, you guys. We will love you later. So all you lovers, listeners, and lurkers, thank you for joining us. Thank you for hanging in here so long. And I hope we made you smile alongside some of this education. Before I forget, please, once again, guys, please remember that we all need to get out there to find the things that, relate us to and, keep us close together so we can get out there and celebrate our differences. Not fight against them, but celebrate them. It's okay to be different. Because if we was all the same, we'd be boring and I wouldn't like none of y'all. But like I said, love you later.
Love you later.